Amanece un día más en los pueblos de la montaña alicantina. Quirico con su dulce canto despierta a los vecinos y vecinas. Córcholis. Siguen todos dormidos. Che, és que si no s'alça ningú. I si provem? Ya se despiertan los ciudadanos y se van a trabajar. Bueno, pues aprovecharé para contaros una historia de moros y cristians. Nos vamos al año 1200 y pico. Aparece en estas tierras un moro montado en un hermoso caballo, atraído por las riquezas y por tan hermoso paisaje.
¡Ah, del muro!
¿Quién me llama?
Quien desea ser tu amigo. Si me entregas las llaves del castillo y renuncias a tu rey don Jaime, que está viejo y decaído, prometo regalarte muchas joyas y regalos exquisitos.
Los cristianos no entregamos nuestros castillos y plazas, seducidos por regalos y bobadas. Con la espada en nuestra mano y con la ayuda de San Jorge, defenderemos estas tierras y sacudiremos vuestro azote maometano.
Sella tus labios y no cantes victoria antes de que las armas hayan hablado.
¡Viva la Zerrac! ¡Tomemos el castillo!
Xiquets i xiquetes, per Alcoy i per Sant Jordi, defensem aquestes terres!
Però saps com acaba la història? Mira i escolta.
The fiesta is an emotion, a feeling shared by the people since childhood. At that early age of life, in which we begin to understand who we are and where we come from. In Alcoy, an audience of children lost in thought contemplate the tale of their own history, that which shaped their town. And so, emotion and love settle forever in their hearts. A faithful love and devoted to their tradition, which they will nourish and see grow throughout their lives. Alicante, from fiesta to fiesta. Alcoy, the Moors and the Christians. The origin. Alcoy, located in the mountains of Alicante, very close to the sea and surrounded by peaks that exceed an altitude of 1,000 meters, is a surprising place, both because of its location and the circumstances of its origins. Literally packed on the crests of the ravines, this hostile landscape, which defined its urban development, forged, over a time, a character and a destiny. The city was born and grew in an enclave without resources, where agriculture was limited and difficult. The inhabitants of the place had to resort to ingenuity to be able to survive. With the passing of time, all of these factors shaped a justified reputation as an industrious town. very active, sensitive to culture, and with a resolute calling for progress. Characteristics which define its personality. And they fixed their gaze on the water. They strived to take advantage of that energy. The mills arrived to produce paper, and the first factories to weave cloth. This new reality also generated new needs. The working class demanded leisure and education. In this way, Alcoy prospered hand in hand with industry and the arts. The powerful business elite built beautiful residential buildings in the full bloom of modernism, as a demonstration of their artistic and aesthetic refinement. Like El Círculo Industrial, an elegant and sophisticated space in the heart of the town. The greatest example of the economic splendor that made Alcoy a focus of increasing interest in the new order of the Industrial Revolution and its dazzling development throughout the 20th century. This progress is symbolized by its bridges, which, like extended arms, link the neighborhoods that grew beyond the ravines. That sense of rigor, of effort, of enthusiasm for things well done was also brought to the festivities, to the fiesta. All of these qualities made the Moors and Christians of Alcoy an exceptional occasion in the calendar of Mediterranean festivals. It is a happy combination of culture, art and spectacle, declared fiesta of international tourist interest, with which they pay tribute to their patron, San Jorge, whose intervention, according to the legend, saved the village from a Moorish attack in the 13th century. St. George of Alcoy replaced the dragon of the legend with the Mohammedan enemies. The figure of the saint marks the festive trilogy, and everything revolves around him. To San Jorge Child, to San Jordiet, who is the main protagonist of this celebration. This child character, chosen every year at random from volunteer candidates, and dressed in the clothes of a fantasy Roman warrior, represents innocence and purity, a symbol of hope for the future. When the 13th century was drawing to a close, there lived in a valley near Alcoy a certain Muslim named Al-Lathrak. He was, it is told, the lord of the territories which he dominated from the heights of his castle. He led the resistance to the Christian invasion when the armies of the Crown of Aragon succeeded in taking control from north to south as far as Orihuela, resisting the invaders of the Cross with continuous clashes and skirmishes. until he and his people fell into disgrace in the year 1276. From being lord of the lands and governing his vassals, Alathrak became a clandestine resistance leader who fought to recover that which he always considered to be his. That is how his life ended and his myth began. And the people turned these historical events into their trademark, which manifests itself and is celebrated every year with extraordinary festivities. The fiestas are a communal endeavor and are brought to life by the members of the 28 filayes, a peculiar way of naming the troops of Moorish and Christian performers that has its origin in the language of the textile industry. Filayes means thread. But the filayes depend on the involvement of all kinds of professional, social, and cultural groups. The whole town feels like they're part of the party. Shooting competitions with crossbows and arquebuses take place based on historical evidence. Dances are held, and ornamentation and special decorations made from entwined branches adorn the streets, attesting to the civic and popular character that it's had since its origins. Another culture, another religion. The new ruling order and the new religious confession forged history by introducing the miraculous element. For centuries, it was written in one place or another that the victory of Christians over Muslims was made possible thanks to the intervention of St. George, who, breaking forth from the clouds of a tormented sky, riding a horse of dazzling whiteness, and opening a chasm in the mountain, caused multiple casualties amongst the attackers by launching arrows at them from the air. And that is why San Jorge was chosen as protector. Every April, Alcoy becomes the scene of the great festive miracle. The 3 days of boundless activity are the fruit of the anonymous and tenacious effort of hundreds of people who participate in one way or another in its organization. The idealized recreation of an ancient medieval battle is the trigger for a celebration, which every year moves thousands of people and has become the best-known calling card to the rest of the world. A clever combination of scrupulous respect for tradition and unbridled imagination, which has been repeated every spring for centuries.
Mísero cristiano, vuestro favor, auspicio y benéfico amparo nos asiste. This festival brings together in the same celebration a spectacle for the masses and exquisite attention to detail. During the rest of the year, the memory of the Moors and Christians is kept alive in the Museo de la Fiesta, a space in which the visitor can get close to the long history of this bridge between cultures. On the first day of April,
a crowd gathers in the Plaza de España. An artist, a painter, a photographer, a poster designer wait anxiously for the decisive moment of the presentation of the publicity poster. It is a unique moment, the popular verdict where there can be applause, boos, cheers, and whistles. Over time, a heritage of publicity posters of the first magnitude has been preserved. The choosing of the poster marks the beginning of the festive month with a multitude of activities, such as the theatrical performances of sainetes, an explosion of costumbrismo, an enormous tradition in the city. A form of theatre so unique that it would hardly be comprehensible to any foreign audience. A dramatic jewel, which has in the fiestas and its collection of stories its roots and its meaning, its reason for being. The theatre has been of supreme artistic importance in Alcoy since ancient times. Even in the Middle Ages, there was a street called Carrer de les Comedies, and from that theatrical identity, the Alcoyanos also conceived their fiesta, which is pure street theatre. As a prelude to these days, La Víspera is a day of tribute to music and musicians. The Fiesta del Pasodoble, or Dia dels Músics, is the musical prologue. An evening filled with emotion, with the parade of the bands that go on to participate in the festivities, and which culminates with the interpretation of the anthem in the heart of the city. Each year, a musician is chosen for this honor to conduct the 28 bands that will perform at this fiesta. And the thousands of emotional voices of the Alcoyanos who intone this psalm, a true bond of spirituality and identity. Singing a song that is a hymn. And that marks the beginning of the fiesta. From that moment, everything here moves into another dimension. Thus, amidst the multitudes, Alcoy opens the official program of the Moros y Cristianos. that very night, La Nit de Loggia is celebrated, during which it is traditional to dine on this succulent and thick stew, which is a spoon dish of major importance. It is enjoyed in all the filayes, and its preparation is a culinary ritual. After the feast, in the midst of the festive ambience, the 28 filayes perform in the concluding entradetta, a parade of the members of the two sides, which closes the curtain on this day, a prelude to the coming days, bringing life to the popular phrase that says, "Qui no té la vespra, no té la festa." He who does not have the eve does not have the celebration.
¿Dónde pongo la siguiente?
A few hours later, in the early morning of April 22nd, the preparations behind the scenes continue. People crowd into the Plaza de España, looking for the best place to enjoy the beginning of the Diana. In which each fila is represented by a squad of 10 participants and their corporal. Followed by their respective bands. In El Partidor, which is the starting point of the parade, a chaos of celebrants, of musicians, of banners and floats, and of hundreds of extras that make the spectacle possible, look for their place amongst this confusion.
El poble fa la festa en ordenada orgia i Alcoy es reviscola en el goig del seu rang. Sant Jordi és primavera, Sant Jordi és harmonia i cal sentir-lo dins la massa de la sang. Alcoyans, per Alcoy i per Sant Jordi, avant l'entrada de cristians 2018!
And when you hear their slogan, per Alcoy y per Sant Jordi, avant l'entrada, that chaos begins to take on its full meaning. Christian in the morning and more in the afternoon. The crowd watches with fascination the parade of the Christian band. Soldiers and subjects of Jaime I, the Conqueror, the bringer of a new faith to these lands, making their high-spirited, triumphant entrance into the town. The great festival starts to the tune of a martial warrior parade. The entrance of the Christians recreates the march to battle of the hosts of the cross. And with the passage of time, has managed to create its own aesthetic, full of medieval references. All of the characteristic elements of the mythology of the books of chivalry, of the Crusades, or the orders of monk soldiers are incorporated. The entrance of the Christians has always lavished a spectacular effort of imagination around the two protagonists of the festivities, the ensign and the captain. The inclusion of dancers, of groups with diverse choreographies, and of theatrical street performances opened the way towards levels of unprecedented sophistication, which makes the parade visually spectacular and full of variety. But it is the passage of the captain at the beginning of the entrance which monopolizes all of the attention. The character evokes Jaime I, the Conqueror. He appears imposing and victorious, surrounded by all of his retinue. A truly triumphant procession on imaginative floats, accompanied by his guard of honor, by his people. All a great pageant. The spectacle continues at the end of the parade with the appearance of the Christian ensign. The second in the scale of rank in this unique army. The luxurious extravagance of the costumes. The scenes represented by monks and warriors. The court dances. And everything that one can imagine in the fantastic and fanciful recreation of the history that marked the origin of a town. The streets are transformed into an amazing scene, through which up to 14 different filets parade, each one with its personal touch of originality, and with its traditions echoing over the years. The entrance of the Christians, the beginning of the grand parade, is a joyful and relaxed occasion, and it still retains this characteristic, unaltered by the passing of time. The Christians have their own music. Their parade is accompanied by a repertoire of marches, which helps to intensify an atmosphere that evokes the times of the Reconquest. The scores are specially written for the occasion, and they manage to give weight to the event, reaching a degree of sophistication that turns the parade into a concert, in which you can listen to compositions with warlike melodies or interpretations directly inspired by ancient music. And when the breeze rises and afternoon begins to fall, the same stage presents a very different scene. The spectator takes on the part of an anonymous character in a story. the audience looks upon the exotic, sumptuous and rhythmic, enveloping and sensual passage of the Moorish parade. Their eyes become intoxicated by the legendary myths, as though they were the vizier's minions who crowded the streets to witness the passing of a palace cortege. And so, in the same way that the dancer Scheherazade told 1,001 stories to the Sultan, each year Alcoy lives through one more chapter of its 1,001 Nights. Days and nights in April, in a city where it amounts to the same it amounts to, there would be no Moors if there were no Christians. All the magic of the fiestas of Alcoy is condensed into the entrance of the Moors. The parade of the troops of the half moon through the streets brings together all of the ingredients of an unbeatable formula. Colorful, Baroque music, Oriental sensuality, and the ability to immerse the public in a ceremony of collective enchantment. They are hours of continuous visual surprise. A setting in a perfectly measured scene, in which all of the details conspire to produce a once-in-a-lifetime atmosphere. The Moorish parade is a consolidated aesthetic overture, which has become one of the most iconic images of the Alcoy festivities. The procession comes from an idealized image of ancient Far Eastern fantasies, of Saracen warriors, houris, deserts and palm trees. And from then on, it becomes a grand spectacle. These are moments of luxury and ostentation, understood here not as a sin of arrogance, but as a requirement to live up to what the representation demands. Around the captain and the ensign is a large deployment of resources, with the sole objective of honoring these two figures. The Moorish captain, the star character in the afternoon, represents the leader, Al-Afraq, commanding his troops to take the city. He emerges surrounded by all the paraphernalia of his position and lineage. Captains and ensigns wear splendid costumes. And as the main characters of the parade, they make their entrance into the city supported by a procession full of imagination. Nothing is lacking. Special squads called the Slaves compete in astonishing designs. Entourages of knights with shining garments. Innumerable dance troupes. And monumental floats upon which the great protagonists of this event ride. This great display has an infallible ally, the Moorish marching music, which, with its peculiar and hypnotic cadence, sets the tone of a relaxed and contemplative afternoon that invites us to calmly enjoy all of the details, transporting us to another time, to another era. The second great day is that of its patron, San Jorge. The great characters of the entrances get nearer to us. The spectator can closely contemplate all of the details of their impressive costumes. And in plain sight, San Jorge becomes San Jordiet. The cry of Visca San Jordi, Viva San Jorge, is an expression that is chanted with fervor. St. George as a symbol, as an archetype and a myth, is the patron saint of many countries and places. A universal figure which represents the triumph of good over evil. Wherever he has been adopted as a reference of the faith of the people, he has been adapted as required. This universal saint is venerated with profound devotion and is paraded every 23rd of April on the back of a celestial white horse, representing his magnificent equestrian intervention in full combat with the Saracens, who were vanquished at his feet. The act of the estafeta, prior to the ambassadors in the morning and the afternoon, presents the spectacular ride of a horseman who crosses in front of the rows of spectators with his runaway horse after receiving the refusal of the surrender of the square. It is an intensely theatrical day in which the two ambassadors play a central role.
Del muro.
¿Quién me llama?
Quien desea ser tu amigo, un moro que te saluda. Di al jefe de ese castillo que salga, que quiero hablarle.
These are two literary pieces of great value, which were written in the 19th century, and which recreate the discussions of the representatives of the two sides just before the battle. Declaimed with emotion and with meticulous set design, both performances have a faithful audience which knows how to recognize the best moments of the actors.
Yo vengaré tu arrogancia. De desvergonzado y loco, me vilipendias y tratas. Necios dices son mis dichos, porque vindico mi fama. Hablas con tal libertad, porque el castillo te ampara.
También, en medio del campo, con la lengua de la espada, hablaré cuando tú gustes.
¡Pronto será!
¡Ea! ¡Marcha! ¡Y ven luego! ¡Que te espero!
Vendré a humillar tu arrogancia.
Vendrás a exaltar mi honor.
Vendré a vindicar mi fama.
Vendrás a ser el tapiz de las huestes mahometanas.
¡Aborrezco tanto orgullo!
¡Me fastidian tus palabras!
¡Callemos! Y en la ocasión, hablen solo las espadas.
¡Di a los tuyos! ¡Guerra! ¡Guerra!
¡Di a los tuyos! ¡Armas! ¡Armas!
Alcoy closes its festivities by recreating an ancient battle between the Moorish and Christian troops. In its final stretch, the festivities are reunited again with the Valencian tradition of gunpowder and reach their moments of greatest geniality. The city is enveloped in smoke, creating a ghostly haze that accentuates the drama of the performance. A thunderous roar takes over the streets, and hundreds of celebrants relive with their arquebuses the perpetual confrontation between the cross and the half-moon. It is a day of theatricality and bloodless simulation, with thousands of shots. The Alardo, the battle between the two sides, is one of the most amazing and inimitable manifestations of the fiesta of Alcoy. The image of hundreds of participants shooting into the sky through the ancient streets of the old town forms a unique picture. The festival of thunder, the acrid smell of gunpowder, and the strange light of the sun's rays filtering through a sky veiled by smoke create an unreal and magical atmosphere. The thunderous struggle goes on for more than 6 hours. And in the end, the victory always leans to the side of the cross. And the ritual is resolutely observed. The festivities end with the Christian insignia waving over the Tower of Homage. For the foreign spectator, the Fiesta of Alcoy offers the opportunity to make contact with a celebration which, throughout the centuries, has been setting the bar in the festivities of Moors and Christians in the whole of the Valencian community. A city that offers the best of itself and puts onto the streets a wealth of artistic programs which are impossible to resist. The appearance of San Jordiet on the battlements of the castle brings closure to the festive cycle, which for 3 days has marked the pulse of a city. The figure of the child San Jordiet becomes the protagonist, and the illusions and dreams for a new festive year settle upon him. The city outstretches its hands of welcome to unite and strengthen. And every spring it offers its best. Its days of glory and gala. Its Moors and its Christians, which with the passage of time has transcended the parochial to become a celebration known throughout the world. A unique tradition that crosses borders and has become universal. A tradition that is assured for future generations. As shown in the Gloria Infantil, where the boys and the girls of the different filayes appear as heirs and guarantors of that sentiment to return again to La Fiesta. 2 different cultures that merge in the city of Alcoy and come to occupy the same space. Muslims and Christians, who observe the annual rite of celebrating their differences and making it a reason for and a cause of a joy that touches all of our senses.